topic I'd like to start with, Gene, is your background in especially international videography, and I am just fascinated by your experiences and your exposure to some of the most amazing political criminal trials in the last 30 years or so. And I'm curious how you got into that. How did that all get started?
Well, I started television actually, is my career. And I actually started up in your neighborhood. What got me started was I was going to school many, many years ago, and I took my finals early, and I knew someone up in Kodiak, and they said, "Hey, we got a job for you up in a cannery." Well, I flew up to Kodiak, and I just said after 3 days, "This isn't for me." So once I took my finals early, I had nothing to do, so I found a broadcasting school, and it just sort of took off from there. And from there, I kind of learned how to produce and direct and run camera and all the things that associated with video. Now, jumpstart, or let's fast forward to recent times. I did a lot of documentaries for about 10 years. And that took me to the Amazon. It took me to the handover, in Hong Kong. It took me to interview a lot of different people, from Bill Gates to Henry Kissinger, McNamara. And but I was on the road quite a bit, and I knew someone at the ICTY, and they said, "We're looking for another director at the International Criminal Court for the former Yugoslavia." And I just said, "I'm in. You mean I can work, regular hours and have this uh, insider view to history and be part of history? I'm in."
Uh, so at that point, did you give up most of your other activities? You're doing documentaries and so forth, and did that become full time?
Yes, we at the in the Hague, we did 6 courts a day, three when I first started, 3 in the morning and 3 in the afternoon, and so there were 8 directors, I believe, at that time. So it was a full time. We would have hour-and-a-half sessions, 3 hour, 1 hour and a half sessions, somewhere around there. So it was a full day of work, and then you just had to decompress because sometimes listening to victims' testimonies and the families, and you had to decompress after a while.
I would guess that probably was critical. There you had two choices, either decompress or drink.
Yes, and okay, well, yes, there was quite a bit. Well, I won't say quite a bit, but let's just say that there, to get to my office,
Mhm.
we were located in the defense corridor. There were
Uh-huh.
maybe 10 or 12 different security doors you had to get to. And my window is actually a bomb-proof window. And so I think management kind of turned a blind eye of just the partying going on, because I think you could do whatever you wanted to do at any time of the day as long as you did your job properly. So,
Yeah, fascinating. Um, just a flip-off question from that background. With that extraordinary background, especially looking at so many international incidents with so many critical people, why did you decide to write your first book about Oregon and two more traditional mystery issues? There are really two different crimes going on at the same time, which I find
yeah.
fascinating in your book. Why this shift out of the international background into that much more local background?
Yeah. Well, my first book actually hasn't been published. And the way I started writing, getting into writing, is I had this story going on in my head for a long time that was based on a family tragedy. And and one day I just said to my wife, I just said, I'm going to write a book. And she said, "Okay, great. Well, once you put it out there, I had to do it." So I had to research how to write a book. And that first book, Twin Engines, is what landed me my agent. And we got it ready, and it didn't really go anywhere because at that time, and I think, if you hear like, oh, this book won't sell unless you put dragons in it, or this book won't sell if wizards, and that sort of thing. So the book didn't go anywhere. I still have it, and maybe I'll dust it off sometime and get it out there. But that led me to, well, okay, I want to write another book. And I've always been, I picked up a Lee Child book. I love Elmore Leonard, and that just sort of like, these books are fun, and that's what kind of got me into another try. But Rodger, if you don't mind me interrupting for just
Yeah.
a second, I
Mhm.
got to tell you, I just finished your book, Robber Barons, and I've got some questions for you on that.
Fire away.
Well, for one thing, let me just say, I just absolutely loved it. It was uh, very much like, you start off with the action scene, or the dramatic scene in the beginning. And I don't want to give anything away,
Mhm.
but then you take your time and develop the characters to this epic proportion that reminded me of like a Patrick O'Brian book. And you threw in the characters and the locations. I did take notice of, Oregon and Port Townsend, and I'm from Tacoma originally. So,
Me too.
is that right?
Mhm.
Where'd you go to school?
I actually left Tacoma very young. I was 9 years old when I left, but I've got lots of relatives and friends there, so we're back on a regular basis.
Uh,
Um, and I ended up coming back, and then I was out at George Curtis High School,
oh yeah, right.
and my dad's was many years ago, graduated from school in Lakewood, and so the family is really well entrenched in Washington.
Okay, so I am from Lakewood, and I graduated from Clover Park High
Yeah,
School. So I don't know if that's where your dad went, but
it
maybe.
is.
Is that
Yep,
right?
yep,
Small world, Rodger.
it is. Well,
So,
but
but no, I really enjoyed your locations, and I just loved. I read the Tempest North as well,
uh-huh.
and yeah, your style is just yeah, it's epic, and I just really enjoyed the how immersed I got involved with it. So well done.
I thank you very much. The My mindset is kind of unique. I'm actually writing three different series right now, and we'll get to the third one in a minute because I want to get back to your comment about your
Yeah.
first book.
Yeah.
But I'm a political scientist and economist by education, but I spent my whole life in the business world, most of it roaming around the world.
Mhm.
Lots of it in places that were very unpleasant places with very unpleasant people. And one of the things my wife has commented on, and a number of my friends, I have a really unique ability to work with some of the biggest jerks you've ever met in your life. For some reason, they don't frighten me. And it's been my experience that often, a little bit of patience with them, I can move the needle a little with them. So when I started writing, I decided, why not move the needle a little bit with each story as well?
Yeah.
And Robber Barons could be written as for the way many people feel about what's going on in the United States today. It could be written today about the
I
robber barons.
I was going to say the same thing, Rodger. I see, what's happening today. It just, yeah, absolutely. It could definitely be written today, or about today.
But by setting it, and at the turn of the last century, um, it allows me to get a lot better settings in. I mean, there's nothing more beautiful
Yeah.
than the Inside Passage in Southeast Alaska, and being able to put a book into that environment with the rainforest and the extraordinary mountains and so forth. One of the problems with living in Alaska is I don't get to see very much of it. I mean, it's such a vast state. But I love the idea of the parallels between that period and where we are right now. And that's really where the catalyst for robber barons came from.